to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. I am half your host, Perry Constantine.
And I am the other half, Derrick Ferguson.
So, Derrick, I've got a theory about the universe that I want to tell you. Because the last...
Theorize away.
Well, because the last 2 weeks we were off the air, right? Because you had you had computer problems and we had to get that all sorted out.
Right.
And last week, there was a Nazi insurrection at the Capitol.
Oh. So also Wednesday.
Also on Wednesday, yeah. So here's my theory. Here's my theory. Our show is the glue that holds the universe together. Because every time we take a week off, something goes to hell.
Something goes to hell. Something happens. And I mean, you cannot, when you talk about going to hell, the attempted overthrow of the United States government, it doesn't get more off the rails than that. Let me tell you.
It's even doubly surreal for me being in Japan because this shit happens in the middle of the night for me, right?
Yeah.
So I wake up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I wake up and I got a message on my phone from a buddy of mine in Colorado, and he's like, Trump supporters are storming the Capitol. I'm like, what?
I said, what? Are you drunk?
No, and I'm like, am I still asleep? Like, am I dreaming? What the hell's going on?
Yeah. Now imagine how surrealistic it is for us here. We're watching it in real time as it happened. We're watching it, and I'm looking at Patricia and I said, well, you know what's happening, right? She said, well, I said, well, Donald Trump is trying to overthrow the government. Mm-hmm. Basically.
And it was so funny. Like I freaked out. I'm like, what? And my wife was, she's like, what's wrong? And I tell her, I'm like, Trump supporters stormed the Capitol. And she's like, oh yeah, I know. I'm like, because while she was pregnant, she was I love how your
wife is so nonchalant and calm about everything. Oh yeah, I know.
Well, because she was because she wasn't sleeping nights, right? Because the pregnancy, her sleep clock was all messed up. So she was like up all the night. She's like asleep during the day. So she was up and she was watching TV. And then like she came to bed around like, probably like 4 or 5 in the morning or something like that. And then it's like 6 o'clock. I wake up and I'm like, what? And she's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, and she's like, what's wrong? And she thinks like somebody died or something.
Yeah.
Because that's actually what happened with her brother. Like she got woken up in the morning by a call saying that her brother passed. So she's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I'm like, she's like, oh yeah, I know. I'm like, isn't this the sort of thing you'd think to wake me up and be like, hey, by the way, there are Nazis trying to overthrow your government right now.
Why? There's nothing you can do about it.
I know, but still, like,
yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. It's, I mean, but you know what? Okay, here's the thing, and people say I'm crazy for saying this, but bear me out.
Okay.
Give me a minute. In his way, Donald Trump is probably the most honest American president we've ever had.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because every single thing that he said he was going to do, he did it. He told you that he wasn't going to, he never came out and said that he was going to leave quietly. As a matter of fact, he has been laying the groundwork throughout the 4 years of his presidency up to that moment. He started from day one, letting you know that, this is my intention.
It's the weirdest thing because, and I can't take credit for this because I heard someone else say this on a podcast or a news program or something.
Yeah.
But someone had said that it's like this weird contradiction because first off, he lies all the time. But on the other hand, he's also strangely honest about everything.
Yes, he is.
It's really weird.
He's very honest with his line.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there are things that he does. I mean, he's done everything that he said he was going to do.
Well, I mean, he's kind of a walking contradiction that way too, because he's like the richest poor man alive as well.
Yeah, well, that's true too. I mean, it's utterly bizarre. Mm-hmm. So on one hand, I mean, yes, like everybody else with good sense, I was horrified to see that we actually had come to this point.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I was saying, well, you know what? We should have known this was coming all along.
Yeah.
Really
I mean, this is what I said. Like, I remember 4 years ago, I was saying like something like this could happen. And everyone's like, oh, no, you're crazy. It's like, look what happened. So when that happened, I'm like, you know what? 4 years ago, you all told me I was crazy.
And there have been people all along have been saying that, that Donald Trump, they said, well, he's not going to leave. And people have been saying that, and other people say, even I would say, well, you know what, maybe he won't leave and they'll have to take him out of there.
Yeah.
I never thought that the guy was going to raise up a mob and tell him okay, we'll go to the Capitol building. And then what makes it even more frightening is all of this information that we're coming out now is that they were actually members of the Republican Party inside the Senate that were assisting this nonsense.
Yeah, and now they're refusing to go through like metal detectors and shit, and and they're carrying like. I mean, if I was, and I just saw the headline this morning. I hadn't read the article, so I don't know but Nancy Pelosi had proposed something like a $5,000 fine if members of Congress refuse to use metal detectors. I'm like, fucking good. I'm like, if I try to, go in an airport or something or a government building and they tell me go through the metal detector and I said no, they're going to stomp my ass on the ground.
Hey, listen, you know what? I say like this. Good for them, because now you know what junior high school kids have to go through.
Yeah. There was something
just to go to fucking school.
Yeah.
Now you know what elementary school kids go through when people come, to shoot up their schools.
David Hogg, one of the Parkland guys, he was talking about how he's like, when what's her name, that one of the nutball congresswoman the GOP elected, when she like refused to consent to a bag check or something. And he posted that tweet. He's like, well, how come they don't have all clear bags like junior high and high school kids are supposed to have now?
Thank you. So if these are the same people that every time that a school is shot up and babies are murdered, they pop up with that Second Amendment crap, and everything like that. So, hey, if you're feeling a little bit of what these kids had to feel, you know what? And don't get me wrong, folks. God knows I don't want to see anybody get hurt, but payback is a bitch.
Yeah. I just saw. I got Rashida Tlaib's email like just before we started up, and I just got to read this because it's so awesome. So she wrote, this week before entering the House floor, some of my colleagues were frustrated by new security requirements, including metal detectors. These are the same members of Congress who have enabled this twice impeached president's worst instincts and behavior, which resulted in a violent right-wing mob of white nationalists and unhinged conspiracy theorists attacking the U.S. Capitol in a failed coup attempt. At a time when our communities, our employers, our schools, and our healthcare systems are struggling in the midst of this pandemic, and when our democracy is under relentless attack both from within and outside our government, I say to my fellow colleagues on the other side of the aisle, suck it up, buttercups. Y'all brought this on yourselves.
Hey, one thing that had me cracking up, Patricia and I were watching it, and when they, when they showed the picture that they had the scaffolding with the noose hanging from it, and they were running through the Capitol building screaming, hang Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence. And it reminded me of a scene in a Jackie Chan movie where he's listening on the phone, he's trying to get information from the bad guys, and the bad guys are talking back and forth, and they're saying, okay, well, you know what, after you do so, make sure you kill the Chinaman. And Jackie Chan says, kill the Chinaman? Wait a minute, I'm the Chinaman. I imagine Mike Pence must have been the same way when they said to him, he said, well, what are they saying? Well, they say, hang Mike Pence. He said, Mike Pence, wait a minute, I'm Mike Pence.
But this whole thing, it reminds me of Frankenstein, right? Because, in the book, Victor Frankenstein creates this monster, and then he's horrified about what he's done, and the monster comes and kills his family. So you got all these Republicans saying like, oh, saying in private, like, I'm scared for my family. I'm just like, well, you fucking created the monster that's attacking your family. What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, I know. They got all of these, they were saying today on the news, and they were saying that all these Republicans, they said that they are terrified. They said, they don't want to vote for impeachment because they're scared that these lunatics are going to come and, kill them. But these are the lunatics that you said had the right to carry arms and free speech, and they could do this and they could do that. You said that they had the right to do all of this. So you know what? I guess you deal with it now, because this is what you created. This is the monster that you made. So, hey.
If I went into the zoo and I jumped into the tiger pit and the tiger starts attacking me and then I scream for help, saying like, help, the tiger's attacking me, they're going to be like, what the fuck were you doing jumping in the tiger pit in the first place?
Oh, well, if I'm there, that's your ass, son. Yeah. I'm sorry. I love you like a brother, but hey, I listen, man, that's right. Why did you jump in there?
Yeah. So, so I mean, like you said, like, I don't want anybody to get hurt, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, well, you know what? It's hard for me to feel sorry for you.
Yeah. I mean, really, it is. It's hard for me to feel. It's like somebody that goes and picks up, somebody picks up a drum of Drano and drinks it. Yeah, I'm going to take it to the hospital, but you know what? If you drink Drano, that's on you. And in essence, that's what these Republicans have been doing for 4 years. Remember when Trump was saying, well, you ought to inject bleach in your arm to get rid of the corona? Well, that's what they've been doing. They've been injecting Trump for 4 years.
Yeah.
And now it's turned toxic.
Yeah. Now, in a related thing, there's some comic related news controversy that sprung up as a result of this, and you and I briefly
comic stuff now.
We'll jump right into it because it's a good transition. And then we'll segue into some happier discussion.
Go ahead.
So, a lot of these, militia types and all that, and like racist cops, they've been sporting the Punisher logo.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So they've been sporting the Punisher logo. They some of them had it on their shirts and stuff like that. They had like Punisher logo stickers, and this has been going on for a while. Like you even had cops. Like there was some like cop run or cop friendly T-shirt company or something that was also printing like thin blue line shirts with the Punisher logo on it and all that kind of stuff. So so this has been going on for a long time, and after what happened last week, there's been a lot of calls online saying that, Marvel should retire the Punisher logo because of all this.
Yeah, I've seen that. Matter of fact, I posted it on the superhero Cinephiles.
Right, yeah. And so when you post that, yeah. And so this is something that we both thought that, we should talk about. And so you're the one who posted, so let's start with your opinion first.
My opinion is that I am 100% opposed to Marvel retiring the Punisher. Understand me. I am not a big fan of the character. Really, I'm not much of a Punisher fan, but I am even less of a fan of a perfectly good character who wasn't bothering anybody being, having to be shoved in a hole because a bunch of racist, sexist, misogynistic assholes have taken this character symbol, which they don't understand anything about. First of all, anybody that looks at the Punisher as a hero, there's something wrong with them because that's not the character.
Yeah.
But for Marvel to cave in to that, what Marvel should do is hire somebody like Chuck Dixon, who's written a lot of Punisher stories.
Oh, actually, I would say no, because because I read some of Chuck Dixon's Punisher stuff from the 90s, and it's like right-wing power trip fantasies, right? Ooh, okay. It's like all like, let's kill the hippies and shit like that. So, yeah.
But he's usually the writer I associate most with the Punisher. But, okay, get any competent writer and change the mission statement of the character and have him go after these groups that are using his symbol, for their purposes. And in that way, we, the writer, whoever writes it, can redefine what that symbol means to the Punisher and what it actually is supposed to symbolize.
Yeah. So
that's what I would do.
So I'm not sure if you read any of Garth Ennis's Punisher stuff.
Very little.
Okay, so like the stuff he wrote that was set in the Marvel universe, right? It was him and Steve Dillon. It was their standard, it was kind of what they did on Preacher, right? It's very like kind of over the top, like almost like tongue in cheek, almost like satire of violence, right?
Okay.
But then Marvel said to Ennis, like, what if we gave you the Punisher and we made it a Max title, part of their mature readers imprint, and we just kind of let you go nuts with it. And one of the things he wanted was like, okay, well, I want it set outside the Marvel universe then, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so he set it outside the Marvel universe, and so in the comic books, right? Frank Castle supposedly fought in Vietnam originally. He was a Vietnam vet, but in the comics, like that's kind of been. I'm not sure if they've really addressed it in recent years, but it was also kind of implied for a while that because he had gone through this whole thing where he had been died and then he was resurrected and then he was brought back, that kind of like de-aged him type of thing. But in what Ennis did in the Max stuff, we said no, he still fought in Vietnam and he's like now in his 60s and he's been doing this whole thing for like 40 years. And one of the really cool things he did is he used the story, and it was like you think about Garth Ennis and you think about like really dark, over the top, like gallows humor type of stuff, right? Like Preacher or that kind of, or The Boys. But when he did Punisher Max, like it was really like scathing indictments of like, you know, foreign policy and cracks in law enforcement, and it was amazing. Like, definitely check out his Punisher Max stuff because it's unbelievable. He had him like the very first arc. They had CIA goes after Frank Castle and they kidnap him, and they had his old partner Microchip say to him, "Look, how about this? You know what? You've been running this war for 40 some odd years. If your family was still alive, like you might be a grandfather by now. So how about we do this? Crime's not going down. You're not making a dent in anything." So they say to him, "What if we put you on our payroll? We have you off the books, and then you can go and you can hunt down. You have all the resources you want, and you can go and you can hunt down people like Bin Laden." And they're like, "What do you say? Yes or fuck you?" And Castle's like, "Fuck you." And then he goes in this whole thing about how like he's like, "I'm not going to be beholden to the same people who sent us into a meat grinder in Vietnam and all that." And it's like this really scathing indictment of Vietnam and just like it's. They also did stuff with like human trafficking and just like the whole web of stuff that connects to everything. And it's an amazing series. You got to check it out.
But see, okay, now right there, see, I would read that Punisher because I've always felt right from the beginning that the Punisher is a character that does not operate well in the Marvel universe. Because when you have him in his own book and he's just like ruthlessly mowing down criminals and gangsters and picking up people with headshots, and then now he teams up with Spider-Man and Captain America, and he's using rubber bullets and tasers. Make up your mind. The character can't be that schizophrenic, either having one or the other, which is why matter of fact, again, if I had my way, like all of Marvel's like street level heroes, I would take them and just set them in a universe of their own, like the Punisher, Daredevil, Luke Cage, a few others, and just have them operate on their own. Because once you have them in this gritty world of crime and corruption and espionage and duplicity and moral ambiguity and everything like that, and then you got to drag them into this shiny, bright superhero world where it's not. But the Punisher, no, I don't want to see the Punisher put in a box just because of these people. Instead, take him and use him. To make a statement about, like you said, things that are going on right now. What if Frank Castle was sitting at home and he saw them attacking the Capitol? He said, "Well, something, I don't agree with the politicians and everything like that, but that shit ain't right." And then he turned around and said, "Okay, well, if they're not going to do the right thing, I will."
Yeah. And Jerry Conway even said, like, because I think this first sort of came to light during the Black Lives Matter protests last year, when the stuff about cops sporting Punisher logos and stuff like that. And Jerry Conway, who co-creator of the Punisher, came out and he said, "Look, if you're a cop and you support the Punisher, then you're basically saying that you're useless. You're basically indicting your own profession, because the whole thing about the Punisher is that he's a symbol of a system that's broken." He's saying that if you support the Punisher, you're basically saying that you're ineffectual, you're useless.
And I forget what city it was, but there were some cops that actually had the skull symbol painted on their police car. And I said, "Oh God, that
And Garth Ennis too. He also went on record. He said anyone who sports the Punisher brand is a halfwit. And you know what? Honestly, he says no one actually. He said, here's what he exactly said. "I've said this before a couple of times, but no one actually wants to be the Punisher. Nobody wants to pull 3 tours of duty in a combat zone with the last one going catastrophically wrong, come home with a head full of broken glass, see their families machine gunned into bloody offal in front of their eyes, and then dedicate the rest of their lives to cold, bleak, heartless slaughter. The people wearing the logo in this context are kidding themselves, just like the police officers who wore it over the summer. What they actually want is to wear an apparently scary symbol on a t-shirt, throw their weight around a bit, then go home to the wife and kids and resume their everyday life. They've thought no harder about the Punisher symbol than the halfwits I saw on Wednesday, the ones waving the stars and stripes while invading the Capitol building.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said indeed. And I agree 100%.
And I agree too. Also, I think it also sets a very worrying precedent if you're going to say, like, okay, well, these bunch of assholes, and racists and, you know, Nazis and all that, they co-opted the Punisher symbol, so now we're going to retire the Punisher symbol. Like, well, what if they then go after the Batman symbol? Or if they go after the Superman symbol or Captain America or
Green Lantern.
Yeah. So what are you going to do? Like, if you're going to go down that precedent, you're going to start setting that precedent, then, you know, where does it end? Like, I think that's a very dangerous thing as well. Instead, what they should do is, like, look, Disney's got more money than God. They could buy and sell the whole planet several times over.
True.
And still have enough money to retire for, like, the rest of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, what? And they've got an army of lawyers. Like, Disney is famously litigious.
Oh,
so why the hell aren't they enforcing their brand and going and sending their teams of lawyers after these assholes? Like, they should have a legal office set up just to enforce the Punisher brand, honestly.
But you know something, I can also understand why they wouldn't want to do it, because then they don't want to give more airtime to these people. And, you know, these people are already taking up too much. These people are already taking up too much valuable time out of our lives that we should be devoting to something else. Up
until this, I would have agreed with you. But now that people are calling on Disney to retire the logo, now I think it's time that they got to step up and take some action and start enforcing their brand.
Okay, well, yeah, well, you know what? That's fair. That's fair. You know,
because now the circumstances are warranting it.
I mean, whichever way they go, I don't think that they should retire the Punisher, and I hope that they don't.
Yeah,
I hope.
And also, there's really good. I think it was Matthew Rosenberg. He did a run on. I think he wrote the most recent Punisher book, and he had one scene in it where, you know, Frank Castle's in New York, and a bunch of cops find him, and they see the logo on his shirt, like, oh, they're like, look, and they show him the sticker on their cop car, and like, we're a big fan, we love you. And Punisher's like, you're fucking idiots. He's like, I am not a role model. And he, like, tears the sticker off and he shreds it. He's like, you want a role model? Go talk to Captain America. He's like, I am not on your side. You are not on my side. And the whole thing about the Punisher, like, and I've always said this, the thing about the Punisher and the Punisher comics is that they're not about a character, really. When you try to make the Punisher books about the character of Frank Castle, they tend to not be very interesting, because Frank Castle is not an interesting character.
Exactly,
And he's not a character. He's not a very likable character. He's not a very relatable character. None of that. Like, he's a psychopathic serial killer. He has no real personality to speak of.
The character really is a vehicle for whoever is writing him at the time to express their political, philosophical, views about violence.
Yeah.
And just about anything else that you want. You got to ask the grind. If sex trafficking, you got to ask the grind about that. Okay, you use the Punisher to tell a story about that. If it's about animal mutilation, you use the Punisher. But that's what he is. He's a vehicle to tell a story about whatever particular acts you have to grind as a writer. You say,
he also provides a form of catharsis, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that's really what it is, because, and like, if you look at the Punisher in live action, like, you look at the three movies they did, right, with Dolph Lundgren, then Tom Jane, and Ray Stevenson. Okay, movies in their own right, but none of them connected with audiences, and part of that is because the character isn't really a character that you want to spend time with,
right?
And exactly. The movies didn't quite understand that. So when they did the Punisher series on Netflix, the reason why that was so good is because they completely changed who the Punisher was. They gave Frank Castle an actual personality, and they made the focus of it post-traumatic stress disorder. And that gave it a new window for people to relate to the character. And they gave him a personality. They gave him, emotions and all that. But the Punisher in the comics, he's an emotionless bastard. He's just a cold, hard killing machine.
Yeah, you're not supposed to like him. You're not supposed to relate to him. You're not supposed to find what he does. Like you said, you get a catharsis out of what he does, because course, you can't go up and you can't shoot a bunch of sex traffickers, but you can read a Punisher comic book and say, yeah, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I could do that shit, yeah, I'd do it, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what he is. And you get a charge out of saying that. Here's the thing about the Punisher. As long as he's killing the right people, we're down with him.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
You know,
it's the comic book equivalent of a first-person shooter.
Bingo. There you go. There you go.
And you can't really do that in a movie because you need more story structure and character journeys. But the Punisher doesn't have really a character. Like he's just like I said, he's a force of nature.
Yeah, he does, like you said, doesn't have any character, doesn't have any personality, and it's hard to do that in a movie because the first thing when they sit down and they figure out, okay, well, why do we relate to this character? That's the first thing that the studio wants to say. Why we relate, which is why the movies, especially the Thomas Jane one, work so hard at humanizing the character, which to me was kind of a mistake.
Yeah,
because you're not supposed to humanize the Punisher. He's supposed to be like the Terminator.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what he's like, a human version of a Terminator. That's what he is. When you try to humanize him, don't get me wrong, it's a good movie, but yeah, it doesn't work to try to humanize, the Punisher. It doesn't.
Right. Yeah, you got to do if you want to humanize him, you have to do what the Netflix show did and basically create a whole new character that is named Freight Castle.
Exactly. Because that's what they did. Because it's not, which is probably why I like it, because it's not the Punisher of the comic books.
Right, not at all. Yeah.
All intents and purposes, like you said, accurately said, it's a new character. It's a brand new character.
Yeah.
Which is all right.
Now, some really good news that came out just today is that Chris Evans might be picking up the shield again. He might be stepping back into the role of Captain America. I
heard that. Now, I recently, before I came on, I saw a tweet where Chris Evans denies it. He says, this is the first I'm hearing of it.
But you know what? What was her name? The She-Hulk actress? She had said the same thing. Right? Yeah. Remember when the news came out that she was going to be playing She-Hulk? And she's like, oh, no, that's not true. And then we found out that, no, it is true.
I took it with a grain of salt. And
I do take everything with a grain of salt. But yeah, it's a cool idea because, well, it depends on how they do it, right? Because I like the idea of like them doing flashbacks or something, or like maybe doing a larger World War II movie where you have like the invaders or something like that. I think stuff like that could be cool because the nice thing about First Avenger is that it spans several years. There's a lot of stuff that happens between the scenes in there that we don't see.
Yeah, and I probably said this when we did the Captain America episode, was that you could easily do 2 or 3 movies set during World War II with him going on missions with the Howling Commandos and stuff like and the Invaders, having an Invaders movie. Yeah, you could easily do 3 more Captain America movies just set during World War II. And Chris Evans is still young enough, to pull that off. What I would like to see, and I was discussing this with some people on Facebook, if you go the other route and have old man Steve Rogers. Now, don't de-age him, because to me, one of the brilliant things about the MCU was that it gave us the saga of Captain America and Steve Rogers, a beginning, a middle, and end. The comic books could never do that, but the movies did.
Yeah.
And I would not want them to violate that story in any kind of way. So don't de-age Steve Rogers, but, bring back the old Steve Rogers and have him as like, the elder statesman of the MCU. He's advising the Avengers, maybe working to rebuild S.H.I.E.L.D. There's a variety of things that he could be doing. Yeah. But, they don't have to bring him back as Captain America,
Yeah, that would be cool too. And especially because like, if the rumors are true, which, since Chris Evans has kind of quashed it, we don't know exactly how true it is, but it's not like he'd be coming back to do like another solo Captain America movie. It would be like this kind of smaller cameo appearances, much like Robert Downey Jr. in Homecoming.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Anytime I read something like that, because he had said, well, I'm never coming back. I'm never going to be Captain America again. But that's been a while.
Yeah.
And, it's not like the studios. First of all, studios are in trouble now because of COVID. So nobody's exactly calling him up to, to offer him these meaty, juicy, dramatic roles in movies that are tailored to win Oscars.
Yeah.
Nobody's offering him directing job because that's what he said he wanted to do. He wanted to direct. Nobody's offering him. So to me, I see this as a way he said, well, you know something, the bills are still coming in. So let me go back to what I know. And I know I'm going to make a nice chunk of change doing this. And, you know, which I don't blame him for.
No, not at all. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know me, I'm a materialistic bastard. Go chase that paper. Yeah. But, you know, but if I was, that's what I would like to see. I would like to see the old man, Steve Rogers.
That would be a cool idea. Yeah.
Have him be like the elder statesman. You know, like everybody comes to him for advice. Oh, well, what do we do? Well, let's go talk to the old man. You know, remember the Magnificent Seven? It was the old man that lived on top of the mountain and the villagers went to him. Yeah, that's Steve Rogers. He lives in a cabin someplace. And when superheroes need advice, they said, well, let's go see old man Rogers and ask him what we should do. You know.
So it also looks like there's another rumor going around in casting rumors that the Flash movie might have Danny DeVito coming back as the Penguin.
I'm so sick of hearing about this Flash movie. I don't know what to do. There was some crap the other day about this guy. You know what? Okay. You know what? Okay. This is gonna be our last episode. What's the guy's name that plays Cyborg?
Oh, Ray Fisher.
You know, just let the shit go already, man. They don't want you. You don't want to deal with, okay, all that shit happened and everything like that. We got it. You put it out there. Fine. They have made the decision that they don't want to be bothered with you.
Well, the thing I don't understand is like, he keeps saying like, he's like, oh, they know what they did. They know what they did. Well, you know what? Fucking tell everybody what they did. So like all of that kind of, it feels kind of suspicious to me with him keep saying like, oh, they know what they did. I'm not going to say anything. They know, like,
thank you. You know, this is high school bullshit. You know, either shut or get off the pot. Say if they did something, say what they did. Do that. You know, don't be this cagey thing like you think you're going to blackmail them into giving you a role. When they turn around and say, well, go ahead and say what you want to say. You know what? We'll give it to another character.
Yeah.
You know, and this is just like dragged off for too long, you know. So yeah, I'm about tired of anything that's got now. I mean, if I'm online and I'm looking, I see something about the Flash, I scroll right past it. Really, I don't care anymore. I really don't.
All right. So one other thing, not really related to news, but I got HBO Max. And I signed up for that.
You see all that DC stuff that's on there?
Oh my God, it's nuts. Like I've been falling asleep on the couch for the last few nights watching Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
And I saw Wonder Woman 1984. That was obviously the first thing I watched when I got on there.
Okay.
Because it's only on for this month, so I'm like, well, I got to watch that.
Yeah.
And after that, you know, I started jumping. Like I jumped in. I watched like because I saw Titans season 1, so I watched like the first 2 episodes or so of season 2, and I watched like the first episode of Young Justice season 3, and then I'm just kind of like, you know, jumping around and sampling stuff. And then I got into Harley Quinn, and I'm 6 episodes into Harley Quinn now because it is so fucking hilarious.
I gotta watch it. But then again, I gotta watch Doom Patrol. I gotta watch Titans. I
gotta watch season 2 of Doom Patrol as well. I gotta finish Swamp Thing. I still got 1 episode left on Swamp Thing. I haven't finished that yet.
I haven't touched Swamp Thing yet. I've watched season 1 of Doom Patrol. I have to go back and finish watching that. But I really want to finish watching that. And I really want to get into Titans because I've heard so much about it, and Harley Quinn. Yeah. But I mean, just a ton of stuff that's on DC. You know, just like I said to you, hey, that could, you know, we could do all the stuff that's on HBO Max.
Yeah, we were talking yesterday, and it was just like, you know, we could just like do everything on HBO Max, and that'd give us like enough content for like maybe not even a year, maybe 2 years.
Yeah, serious word. I mean, what with the series and the movies and the animated movies just alone.
Yeah.
Oh, God, you know.
That was another thing. I watched, what was it? Death in the Family. So I watched that as well. The Batman one, which was really disappointing. I was expecting it to be like this longer thing, but it was only like 40 minutes or something. Like, what? So that
really?
There was all this talk made online about that. Like there's all this talk. It was broadcast like, oh, well, you know, there are alternate endings and all this. But like on HBO Max, they didn't have any of that. It was like this, and I was like, okay, well, that was kind of a waste of time.
And there's actually going to be a lot more stuff because I really think that what's going to happen is that slowly but surely, Warner Brothers is kind of like weaning stuff away from the CW, and they're going to put it on HBO Max.
Yeah. Well, Batwoman's already on there.
Yeah. Well, they had to continue that and that was they had made that when it was kind of like the shift from DC Universe to HBO Max. But but HBO Max is like making a really concerted effort to like really be a powerhouse as far as the streaming services go.
And they got a lot of I was just like not only just the DC stuff, but just the sheer content in general they have on there is amazing. Like I just finished last night The Vow, the documentary series about Nexium, and that was really good.
They have the whole Lone Wolf and Cub series on there.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Which I got that all on DVD anyway. But yeah, that's they had a ton of Japanese stuff on there.
When was the last time I watched what I watched last weekend? The Ronin, the 42 Ronin.
The 47 Ronin.
47 Ronin, part 1 and 2. Because they're like 2 hours apiece.
Oh yeah, that's a long one. There's an interesting backstory behind that as well, because the Japanese because that was made during World War II.
Yeah.
And the military, they went to the director and they said, we want you to make a film version of the 47 Ronin, something that's like, rah rah, like to raise up the Japanese spirit and all that. And he instead made this 4-hour epic character introspection.
Yeah. There's really not a lot of action in the movie.
No.
There's a lot of talking.
So yeah, they were very disappointed when he came out with that.
But I was interested in seeing that because a while back I had seen it was like a fantasy version was made with Clive Owen and Morgan Freeman.
Last Nights.
Yeah. So, and then I found out that it was based on the story of the 47 Ronin. And I said, okay. I said, well, now I got a chance to see it. So yeah, I liked it. It was good. But like you said, it's a movie that you have to, let me put it this way: it's not Seven Samurai.
No, definitely not. And Seven Samurai as well, it wasn't all action, but it was still like it had a real balance of the two. But 47 Ronin, it's just like if you're going in that and you're expecting like a big samurai battles, you're going to the wrong place.
Yeah, it's like, but at least in Seven Samurai, there's like it has this dramatic highs and lows.
Yeah.
47 Ronin is a lot of measured conversations. People are very reasonable in this movie. Even the samurai, and we never even see the battle where they actually kill the guy.
Yeah.
We just see when they bring the head to the grave, and so I said, wait a minute, they're not going to show the battle? I was expecting they'd storm the castle and everything. Nah, they just said, okay, well, they went, and then next thing you see, they come into the grave with the head. I said, okay. Well.
That was kind of like the director's fuck you to the Japanese military.
Yeah. But it's a good movie. And for those of you who have HBO Max, and if you're into Japanese cinema, which you should be, and you should be listening to my esteemed partners, Japan on Film podcast.
In fact, the new season just started a few weeks ago.
Okay, cool. Well, check out this movie on HBO Max, the 47 Ronin.
Well, one thing I definitely want to recommend too is that's kind of along is Lady Snowblood. Like if you have never seen Lady Snowblood, you got to go and watch it on HBO Max because that movie is amazing. And if you've seen Kill Bill, like that final fight between the bride and Oren Ishii, if you like that fight scene, you're gonna love Lady Snowblood because that whole fight scene, that in the snow and everything, that was like almost stolen from Lady Snowblood. Like that's how inspirational it was. I'm
gonna watch that this weekend because ever since I got HBO Max and the Criterion Channel, which has like about 20 Akira Kurosawa movies on.
Oh yeah.
So I've been devoting Saturdays what I call Samurai Saturdays.
Oh, nice.
I watch samurai movies. Yeah. So Lady Snowblood, that's on my list to watch this weekend.
Yeah, that's really good. And I did an episode.
I think they got both parts.
They got both. Yeah, they've got Lady Snowblood and they've got Lady Snowblood. Love Song of Vengeance is the sequel.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Now, today's movie, and you gave me a nice little Christmas gift because, if anyone asked me, well, what is the one movie that Derrick would probably not suggest for this show, it would be the movie we're talking about today, and that's Deadpool 2. So you gave me a nice little Christmas gift.
I am nothing if not generous.
Okay, so Deadpool 2, and coming off the heels because Deadpool made all the money.
All the money.
All the money. And it was just like such a game changer for movies in general, because it was like one of the biggest R-rated movies ever. And because it was an R-rated movie, like it had a smaller budget, so it just made tons of profit. And so then obviously Fox like, well, we're fuck yeah, we're doing a sequel.
When you talk about a surprise hit, yeah, there's a picture of Deadpool up under the definition of surprise.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, because like Fox fought making it for like, you know what? I mean, going almost 20 years they waited before they finally put this movie out. Mm-hmm. Like they got the rights when they got the rights to X-Men. So after X-Men came out and hit it big, that's when they said, we're going to do a Deadpool movie starring Ryan Reynolds. And it didn't come out until like what? 2015, 2014, 2015, something like that. So it took them like almost 15 years to make this goddamn movie. And the only reason it got made is because they had done some CGI test footage with Ryan Reynolds doing the voiceover, like that car scene in the beginning of the movie. That was like some test footage. And they did that test footage. They sent it to Fox, and Fox like, okay. And then they just sat on it. And then, you know, they're like, let's leak this shit on the internet. And they put it out on the internet, and then everybody went crazy about it. And Fox like, well, fuck, now we got to make the movie.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, Ryan Reynolds got to give him a lot of credit, because the guy, he was persistent and relentless in that he wanted to get this movie made, and he didn't stop until he got it made, because he saw potential in the character, and he said, okay, this I can do. He said, maybe I couldn't do Green Lantern, maybe I couldn't do the other version of Deadpool, but this guy I can do.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing about Deadpool, and I was realizing this as I was rewatching Deadpool too, it's like if you've seen Ryan Reynolds in interviews, or you see like his Twitter feed, like he is Deadpool. Like that style of humor, that kind of like, you know, that ping pong bouncing back and forth between and just like saying this random shit. That is Ryan Reynolds. Like that is who he is.
That stream of consciousness type of humor where he just says anything that comes into his head.
Yeah. And that is total. And you know, just like, you know, it can be like really dark at times, really profane. Like that is Ryan Reynolds. That is who he is. And so that's not him putting on an act. Like, you know, outside of with the exception of the burned face and being an assassin, like Ryan Reynolds and Wade Wilson are the same person.
And also, you know what? People just like Ryan Reynolds. They do. I like him. I mean, you know what? I'm not a big fan of the character, but I like him. And I'm watching this movie, and I'm saying, you know what? It's the weirdest thing. Now, mind you, I've seen this movie now. I watched it the night before when we were supposed to originally do this. And we didn't do it for some reason. And then my computer went haywire. And then we were supposed to do this last night. And I'd watched it the day before, which was Tuesday. And then I watched it again today. And I'm saying to myself, you know something? For a movie that I claim I don't like, I really seem to enjoy watching this movie, though. It's the craziest thing. I don't... For so many reasons I should not like this movie, but I'm watching it and I'm enjoying the hell out of it for some reason. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know what it is. And you know what? I'm not even going to analyze it. But really, you should. There's a lot of things in there that I say, I really don't care for this. I really don't care for that. Especially since most of the humor in this, I find I laugh at stuff that other people are doing, not what Ryan Reynolds is doing. It's the weirdest thing. Yeah.
Now, for me, one of the best sequences I love in this movie is just that opening sequence, right? When he's just traveling the world, killing people, and it's set to Dolly Parton.
9 to 5, yeah. And then they go to the credits, and it's like the James Bond style.
Yeah,
you know,
with Celine Dion.
Celine Dion,
which they did a music video. Celine Dion, because she wrote this song. She wrote this song for this movie. And so they did this music video. And in the music video, like it's Celine Dion, you know, dressed up in a gown and everything, and she's singing her lungs out. And then you got Deadpool is dancing in high heels, and he's the background dancer. And then it ends, and like, you know, and it's Deadpool, you know, played by Ryan Reynolds. He's clapping. He's like, Celine, that was great. That was great. But here's the thing. It was too good, right? You have it up to 11, but this is Deadpool 2. We need to bring it down a little bit. And then Celine Dion looks at him, and she's like, this only goes up to 11. She's like, it starts at 11. So fuck you. And then she says, so fuck you, Spider-Man.
She's Celine Dion. Yeah, she starts at 11. Oh man. Yeah, okay, see now I gotta look up that video.
Oh, it's funny. It's hilarious.
No idea that was there. But yeah, I mean, it's a great opening to the movie because if you haven't seen the first Deadpool, it basically tells you everything you need to know about the character right then and there. That this is irrelevant. You're not supposed to take it seriously. Don't wrap your head around. This is not going to be your typical superhero movie. And that is one thing. One of the things I think that I do enjoy about this is that you get to see a lot of characters in this movie that you've never seen in a superhero movie before.
Yeah,
you don't. I love the scene, for instance, like where he's in the mansion and he says to Colossus, "Well, how come I'm in here and the only two people I ever see is you and
Naked Sonic Teenage, longest name ever."
And you look at the side, and the other X-Men are hiding in the room, and they close the doors, and they're all in there. And Deadpool is bitching about what they can't give us the guy with the wings, with the pigeon wings, throw us something. And yeah, that kind of irrelevant humor, where it's the Deadpool that knows he's in a superhero movie.
And the director of this was he also directed Atomic Blonde.
Who, this guy?
Yeah, David Leitch. Yeah, he directed Atomic Blonde.
You know what? I'm not surprised because the action sequences in this movie, I absolutely enjoyed.
Oh, they're amazing. Yeah.
I mean, that whole sequence where they're trying to stop the truck that's taking the kid Fire Fist, to the ice box.
Yeah.
And it's him and Domino. They're trying, because of course the rest of the team got their dumb asses killed.
Well, that's another great thing is that he assembles this team and it's got like big name actors, right? You got like Terry Crews in there playing Bedlam.
Yeah. Terry Crews, Brad Pitt was the
Brad Pitt as the Vanisher, yeah. And
you know what? Face when he gets electrocuted. Yeah.
And you know what his payment was for this movie?
What?
A cup of coffee.
Really?
Yeah.
You know what? I can believe it.
They asked him, you want to be? He's like, yeah. He's like, well, how much? What do you want for? He's like, just give me a cup of coffee. And Ryan Reynolds said it took him longer to drink the cup of coffee than it took to film his scene.
I can believe it. And like you said, okay, they got Celine Dion, they got Terry Crews,
Matt Damon and Alan Tudyk.
Right, Matt. That's what I was about to say. They're the two guys that Cable swipes the truck from.
Yeah.
There's a lot of.
They're talking about the wet wipes.
It's a lot of famous people that just were in this movie just for the fun of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which to me I like because it translates. They're just having fun doing it, so you can't help but have fun watching this batshit insane movie. And like I said, that whole sequence is like. That's one of those action sequences that I look at it. And I was looking at it today and I was saying, damn, how in the hell did they do this thing? Because a lot of that thing does not look like CGI.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing.
So a lot of that looks like practical effects to me. And then they have the action sequence at the end of the movie with Colossus fighting the Juggernaut. And they're trying to stop the kid from blowing up the orphan. And it's just totally insane.
By the way, do you know who did the voice of Juggernaut?
Ryan
Reynolds. He did the voice. I'm listening to him. And I'm like, I kind of know this voice, but who is it? And I look it up later and find out.
But if you look at the credits, it says it's credited as the Juggernaut.
Yeah. And the nice thing about this movie is that the Deadpool movies, they've now redeemed two of the characters that the X-Men, three of the characters that the X-Men movies kind of shat on. Right. First, there was Deadpool, obviously, who. They sewed up his mouth in X-Men Origins Wolverine. And then there was Colossus, who was just basically background dressing in the first the past X-Men movies. And now Juggernaut, right? Who they had which, they had, what was it? Vinnie Jones played him in The Last Stand, I think it was.
And much as I like Vinnie Jones, the Juggernaut never be played by a human actor.
No, and that was just like a terrible depiction. Like it was just like it just did not work at all. Like the design and everything was terrible as well. And it's like they had to work in that awful "I'm the Juggernaut bitch" meme from the internet that everybody loved at the time for some reason.
Yeah. So it did, but yeah, I mean, it works much. I mean, I just love that whole Colossus Juggernaut fight. It's not the ultimate Colossus Juggernaut fight, but it'll do until we get one.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It'll do until we get one. It is terrific. I mean, the choreography and all of this movie is just fantastic. I mean, I'm sitting there and I get to the end of one action sequence and I take the remote control, I put it back in the beginning and watch it again because it's just played together just so well.
Yeah, and you know what the interesting thing is, when I saw this movie in the theater, after I finished watching, I'm like, oh, that was okay. It wasn't really. I don't think it was as good as the first one. And then, but this is and I think this is kind of ties into something you were saying before, how like you keep watching it, and even though you're not really a fan of it, like you still find yourself really enjoying this. And this seems to be a movie that you enjoy more the more times you
Yeah,
watch it.
yeah. Like the first time I saw it, I said, it was all right, didn't care. But the more I watch it, and the more I'm picking up, like now, I find it really endearing that Colossus doesn't give up on him.
Yeah,
I know it's supposed to be played for laughs, but there is something truly endearing about the fact that Colossus wants to turn this lunatic into a superhero, and he believes he can do it.
yeah.
You know, and then of course, I mean, Colossus and teenage niggas, they are just the greatest pair in these Deadpool movies. I love.
Oh, and here we get also Yukio, NTW's girlfriend, played by Shioli Kutsuna, who she was in the Japanese version of Unforgiven.
Oh, okay.
She played the prostitute who got her face cut up.
No fooling.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Gotta go back. I did not recognize her. But again, it's endearing how Wade and Yukio immediately bond because they're like, bye, Yukio.
I love that.
I love how he peeks back through the door when he gets the time thing when he goes back. Bye. He always makes sure he says goodbye to Yukio. It's so cute and endearing.
Oh, yeah. She's just like the most adorable character ever.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how could you not? I mean, really, if I was in that position, bye, Yukio. I mean,
and then when he comes back to like try and convince Colossus to come with him to fight the Juggernaut, and she's like, "Hi, Wade," and then he's talking to Colossus. Then he switches over like, "Hi, Yukio. You said hi before, and I didn't say hi back, so I wanted to say hi back."
yeah, exactly. It's I mean, it's really cute and endearing and sweet. And
and this character, she's not from the comics. Yukio, like there is a character named Yukio in the comics, but she's not a mutant, and it's a different Yukio from the one who was in the Wolverine movie, right? She's got a completely different power set and all that. So it's like it's just a completely different character, and it's like I'm watching this movie and I'm like, what? I don't know why the X-Men comics haven't introduced this character into the books now.
Yeah, I mean, just totally endearing, and I just like I said, I just enjoyed that whole. But okay, and this is the point I'm trying to make. Is that in the beginning of the movie where Deadpool was slaughtering all of these gangsters and everything like that, and he's saying, okay, don't let all this blood and mayhem and everything like that fool you. He said, this actually is a family movie. And it really is. It's a family movie. Not in the way that, we think of family movies, but we get that whole thing with Wade and his girlfriend played by Helena Baccarin. And they're talking about having a baby and everything like that. And then, of course, something happens and she gets killed. And then he's looking for a substitute family throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, in a twisted type of way, Deadpool takes on the responsibility of trying to rehabilitate, much like Colossus is trying to rehabilitate him. He's trying to rehabilitate Fire Fist.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a weird family movie. It is, but you know what? It is a family movie. It is.
It works in a really.
What you're looking for.
Yeah, and it works in a really bizarre way, which is kind of how family works when you think about it, right? Like, and so it does really work. It is this really bizarre fit that somehow it all kind of comes together. And what was I want to completely touch? Oh, so you mentioned Vanessa's death scene. Now, this has been criticized a lot, right? Because of the whole the idea of fridging, right? Where you kill the hero's love interest as a way to like give him motivation or to propel his journey forward, which has been a big problem in comic books for a while. Like it was Gail Simone who actually wrote Deadpool for a time. She's the one who coined the phrase "women in refrigerators," inspired from when Major Force killed, I think it was Major Force. He killed Kyle Rayner's Green Lantern's girlfriend and stuffed her in the refrigerator.
Stuff her in the refrigerator, yeah.
Yeah. So Gail Simone used that as the term "women in refrigerators." So it became known as this concept of fridging a character. And I understand those criticisms of this movie, and in fact, the movie kind of understands it too, because they did a PG-13 version of this called Once Upon a Deadpool, where they had footage of Deadpool kidnapping Fred Savage and putting him in the Princess Bride.
Oh yeah.
And forcing him to watch the movie. And so I just rewatched it, and even Fred Savage comments on it, like after she dies, like, wait, you just fridged Vanessa? And he's like, and Deadpool's like, what do you mean? And he's like, and he explains the whole concept of it. So they do kind of acknowledge it, and they do bring her back at the end of the movie when he goes traveling through time. So, like, on the one hand, I kind of understand the complaints on it. On the other hand, it seems like they're trying to do it in a kind of subversive way that didn't quite work out. So, like, I don't know. Do you have any kind of thoughts about that?
Yeah, to me, I think that since they knew that they were bringing her back anyway, they said, well, it doesn't matter anyway if we kill, because we're bringing her back. So, but yeah, I think maybe that they were trying to make a statement that didn't quite come off the way that they wanted it to come off. But because it's lost in all the comedy at the end of the movie with him going through time fixing various things, which is, I mean, the biggest gag in the movie is when he shoots himself reading Green Lantern screenplay. That's I mean, I laughed my ass off for 5 minutes behind it. I still laugh. I laughed today when I saw it.
Oh, so before we talked, when we were talking about doing this movie, did you get to watch the super duper cut version? Extended cut? Oh, okay. So the time travel version is actually extended, right?
Oh,
so he goes, so like when he goes and he shoots the Deadpool from Wolverine Origins, then he has this little conversation with Hugh Jackman, and he tells him, he's like, hey, look, you know, I know everybody, you're thinking about hanging up the claws, and everybody's really sad about it. He's like, but one day, your buddy Wade's gonna come to you and ask you to get back in the saddle. And when he does, you should say yes. And Hugh Jackman's like, okay.
So what they do? Use footage from that movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they just kind of spliced in so it looked like Hugh Jackman was actually reacting to him. Right. And then they also had, because remember when he talks about going back in time and killing baby Hitler? He goes back in time to kill baby Hitler.
Really? Okay. Yeah, because he asked Cable that. He said, that's one part I did love, where when Cable was talking about, I came back in time to do this. And Deadpool said, wait a minute. Okay, well, if you can travel through time, why didn't you travel in time before this whole shit started and ended there? Why did you come here? And then now Cable has got to explain why he did, which I appreciate it, because we always get these time travel movies and it's always the same thing. Well, why didn't you go back to a time way before, like with Skynet in the Terminator movies, which they actually did in the third movie, that the Terminator went back to kill the guy that invented Skynet, which is what you really should have did, you know? So, but I enjoyed that little interlude where he actually has explained why he didn't go back further.
Right, and I love Wade's reaction, like, well, that's just lazy writing.
Yeah, he looks right in the screen. He said, that's just lazy. And he does it like 2 or 3 times in the movie.
And Fred Savage comments on that in Once Upon a Deadpool. He says, like, oh, I get it, lazy writing. You know, use the lazy writing joke to cover up the fact that you have that you're bad writers. He's like, here's an idea. Why don't you just hire good writers to begin with? Because he also talks about Fred. He says like, well, you know, I kind of prefer Marvel movies, and Deadpool's like, well, we are Marvel. He's like, yeah, but you're Marvel licensed by Fox. It's kind of like the Beatles being performed by Nickelback. It's music, but it sucks.
You're not really Marvel movies, you know.
Yeah. And it's there's an extended, you can find this on YouTube. Like they go into this whole thing where Deadpool starts defending Nickelback. And like and Fred Savage gets like feels kind of guilty about it, and then Fred Savage starts singing Nickelback, and they start doing a duet together.
Oh my god!
Oh,
I gotta find the extended version. Now I gotta find that now.
Yeah,
because this was on Hulu. I found it, and they just had like the regular version. Yeah. So
that's another. You got to try and find. So yeah, there's Once Upon a Deadpool, which honestly you could just fast forward through all the Deadpool 2 stuff and just go to the Fred Savage scenes.
And just go to Fred Savage, right? Yeah,
because those are gold. Yeah. But the super duper cut is good because it adds a lot more. There's like a lot more extended gags. There's some alternate takes, like for example, in the theatrical version, when Colossus goes to him about going on a mission, he's wearing the Cerebro helmet.
Yeah.
In the extended cut, he's smoking pot and reading like a trashy romance novel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Does he still have the helmet on?
No. He's not wearing the helmet in that one. It's like it's like a completely alternate version of that scene.
Oh, okay.
But it still works. It's really funny, and I think also when he goes to the orphanage, I don't think this was in the theatrical cut, but he's thrown into the window and he sees this kid eating a box of eating cereal, and he picks up the box and he signs it. And on the box is a picture of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and he signs it Ryan Reynolds.
That's in this version.
Oh, that is in that version. Okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's it's a lot of good visual gags in this.
A lot of good visual gags. Yeah,
a lot of good visual gags.
Yeah, and
I like when Domino, when she lands after she's all the team has been wiped out. She's the only one left. She parachutes down, and Deadpool is going on and on about luck isn't a superpower. You can't depict that visually. And then they go ahead and do it. Because of course, if things is lucky for her, it has the effect that it's bad luck for other people, and we get to see that. And that's they pulled it off. You look at it, you say, okay, I get how her power works.
Yeah, because that's one of the things. Like when you read the comic books, and they're like, "Oh, well, her power was luck." Like every time I read that in the comic book, I'm like, "Well, that's a bullshit power."
Yeah, well, he even says that. Deadpool says, "Look, that isn't a superpower. What are you talking about?"
Yeah, and it's funny. He has a dig at Rob Liefeld when he's ranting at her about that. He's like, "What kind of stone comic book artist came up with that? Probably a guy who can't draw feet."
Who can't draw feet? Yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah, but visually, they do show very effectively. Which you want to talk about lazy. Well, that was the writers making fun of themselves.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of witty shit that's actually in this movie and stuff that they thought about. And that scene was one of the things that they thought about. They said, well, how do you depict somebody whose power is luck? Well, whatever works for them works against somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's what we see. Yeah.
And they did, like, honestly, after watching this movie, I like Domino as a character. I like her in the comic books, but she's never been someone that I really like, I'm like, oh, I love Domino, right? Just like, yeah, she's okay. I got nothing against her. I don't mind. I'm not like, it's not a character I hate or anything like that, but never really stood out to me that much in the comic books. After this movie, I'm like, I want to see a Domino movie with Zazie Beetz.
Yeah, well, you know what? She's the one that brings the character to life.
Yeah.
Because I'm like you, I didn't really know that much about Domino. I didn't know that much about Zazie Beetz, to be honest with you. But after I saw this movie, I say, you know something? Anything this chick is in, I'm watching from now on. I don't care. And she was obviously having so much fun doing this. I love when she goes to the audition and she's going to the back. And she just falls right into it with Deadpool. She's just bantering back and forth with him. He said, yeah, it kind of is. He said, no, it sure is. And they have that all throughout the movie.
Yeah, her and Reynolds have this really good back and forth. Like I think almost better than almost any other pair in these movies. Like they really established that back and forth bond really quickly, like right from the jump.
If there was a movie series, there's one movie series. If I was going to do a remake of it, I would cast them in it.
What's that?
The Thin Man.
Oh, okay.
I would cast them as Nick and Nora Charles.
Okay, yeah.
They have that same kind of. See, that's the whole key to the Thin Man. The reason why they've never done it since then is because it's hard to find two actors with the same kind of charisma and chemistry that William Powell and Myrna Loy had. Robert Downey Jr. and what's her name? They have it.
Gwyneth Paltrow?
Yeah, they have it. And Ryan Reynolds and Zazie Beetz, they have it too.
Yeah.
They have that same kind of charisma and back and forth. They could pull it off.
Also, I liked nice thing is like they also worked in Black Tom Cassidy in this one in a really great sequence in the icebox.
You killed Black Tom, you racist.
He's like, Black Tom Cassidy's like, white Wade Wilson, what's your power? Cultural appropriation.
Oh man, that was funny.
And then he's talking to when he's talking to Julian in the cell, he's like, maybe go make friends with Black Tim, or it's like, I don't remember his name. All I remember is he was African American.
Oh man, that was hilarious.
Which it was also cool because like this also is a reference to the comic books because Black Tom and Juggernaut were partners in the comic books.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I had read something that they said that originally Black Tom was supposed to have a bigger role in
Oh,
the
okay.
movie. You know, like he was supposed to be like a major villain. You know, like I mean, the partner of Juggernaut.
Well,
But
he
they took
wasn't. There was a before Deadpool had his ongoing series. He had like there was a mini series. I think it was called The Circle Chase, and Black Tom and the Juggernaut were like the villains in that one.
yeah, because in the comics he's Banshee's brother, I believe.
Cousin.
Like Tom Cassidy, right?
His cousin.
His cousin. Okay, yeah. And he carries around that shillelagh.
Right, yeah. And then later he developed some sort of like wood pout actual control over like plant matter and stuff like that.
Oh,
And they went back and forth. Like he was like this almost like a Swamp Thing type character for a little bit, and then they kind of took that away, and then it's like some sort of weird mix of it. He's a character who's like died and come back several times.
Well, in Marvel Comics, who hasn't?
Oh yeah, yeah.
They don't even do funerals for Jean Grey anymore. It's a nice waste of time. That bitch. Coming back. Don't worry about it.
Well, you know, it's funny. They actually now with Jonathan Hickman doing the X-Men, they actually worked that in because the joke is like, you know, X-Men never stay dead. So now he actually made it a story point where the X-Men have found a way to resurrect themselves.
I mean, you might as well.
You might as well, yeah, because they never stay dead.
The only X-Men who stayed dead is the original Thunderbird.
Yeah.
That's the only one that stayed dead. They made his brother Thunderbird.
Right, very briefly, and then he took on the name Warpath.
Warpath, right? Yeah. So, but that's the only X-Men that stayed dead. That, you know, him and Uncle Ben are still hanging out.
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
The only characters that have not been resurrected.
Also, we got Leslie Uggams back as Blind Al. I'm glad they found, you know, just even though it's a small part, I love they found some reason to bring her back.
I'm glad they found some reason to do it. Well, you know what? In a strange way, that's his confidant.
Yeah.
He goes and he hangs out with her and, you know, tells her his woes, and she doesn't give a shit, but, you know.
Well, there's this, I'm not sure if this was in the theatrical cut, but in the super duper cut, there's a scene where when he's going to her, he's like whining about everything, and she's like, sorry, sweetie, can you speak up? I can't hear you with that pity dick in your mouth.
Yeah, that was in this version. Yes.
Oh, okay. So it was, you know what it was in the super duper cut. When he meets Fire Fist for the first time, he says to him, he's like, as a wise old woman once told me, speak up. I can't hear you with that pity dick in your mouth.
But it's a great character. I love seeing Leslie Uggams. You know, when I saw Deadpool, the first movie, I did not realize that was her until I read the credits at the end. I said, oh, that's Leslie Uggams. I haven't seen her in ages. So yeah, I'm glad they found something for her to do in this movie, small as it was. Yeah. The only character that got on my nerve, and I wish that they got rid of him, was that cab driver. Because that cab driver got on my nerve after a while.
Oh man, I love him.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I just love, like, especially with him like wanting to so bad be part of the team and everything. Oh, and then Deadpool's like, no. And then they hire this random guy off the street with type 1 and type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, what
Peter.
Steve.
Peter,
yeah. Well, what's your superpower? None. I just saw the ad and just thought it'd be fun to, you know.
And he's like, well, do you do it? He's like, well, I have both types 1 and 2 diabetes. He's like, whoa, that's all the diabetes.
It's all the diabetes.
And he's like, you're in. And then Dopinder in the back was like, fuck.
Yeah, he gets really pissed off. Yeah. But to me,
I also like to see when he runs into battle with them at the end, and then Juggernaut's like, I'm going to stick the cab driver up the red one's ass. And then Dopinder's just like, my hands and body are so soft. I should leave.
He said, I should leave. Yeah. Deadpool's there. Yeah, I told you don't come in the front. And yeah, and they're running. And like, he looks to the side. He's like, what the hell is he doing here? I mean, like, he's doing his best to try to keep up with them, you know. Oh, man.
But also, when he's like, they're like, what's your superpower? He's like, courage. Like, that's adorable.
I like the bartender better.
Weasel.
Weasel, yeah.
Yeah, TJ Miller. The great thing about him is that him and Ryan Reynolds are really good at improv. Like, they just both spin this stuff off the top of their heads.
I can believe it, because there's a lot of their conversations that has the feel of improvisation. Like, they just come in with it off the top of their head. You know, I mean, I don't know if such is the case, but I do enjoy dialogue when it sounds like it's not dialogue.
Yeah. The question is, like, what's going to happen with TJ Miller? Because, you know, he had some Me Too stuff come out about him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So They came out after Deadpool 2. He's had a bunch of stuff. Like he had assaulted the driver in Uber. He's been allegations against him from when he was in college for sexual assault. And work misconduct allegations too on the set of Silicon Valley, I think it was. That he had inappropriate, unprofessional behavior on set. And so like there's
if they are going to do a Deadpool 3, which is what I've heard that they're going to do.
Oh yeah, it's already been announced. It's going to be rated R. So yeah, Kevin Feige just confirmed that in a recent interview.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see how Disney handles that, if they're willing to go with the fallout of keeping him on, which I really think that they would probably do. Because there was a little thing with Gina Carano, who's in the Mandalorian, and they kept her on. You know,
well, I mean, the Gina Carano thing is not quite as extreme as the T.J. Miller thing, though.
No, it's not. But I'm just saying that if we were looking at, because you remember, I mean, the whole thing with the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
You know, all it took was just an allegation of you having done something, and that's it. You were gone.
Right.
But now it seems like now you got studios that are willing to push back a little bit more and say, listen, you know, yeah, okay, well, we know they said and did this, but, you know, hey, come on, you know, live and let live, and that's it. So there's a little bit of pushback. So it'd be, you know what, my guess is that they'll probably have them in the third one, you know, because they've already said that it's going to be R-rated.
It's going to be R-rated, yeah. It is. I think it's still up in the air whether or not he would be back. I think we'll have to just wait and see. There might be something where like he does like some sort of like mea culpa press tour or something like that as a way to try to redeem his image. So I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Or they might also just, you know, recast the character and then, you know, make references to that because
make a reference to it. You know, Deadpool says something like, well, "Wait a minute, weren't you played by T.J. Miller and other?" Yeah, but he screwed up. So you know what? Yeah, I could easily see them doing that. You know? Yeah. He ran his mouth off. He did a whole bunch of shit. He should have did. You know, it's a long story. Go on the internet. It's all.
Google also, we get Cable in this movie as well, played by Josh Brolin,
who has played two major Marvel characters now. He played Thanos and Cable, you know, who is, you know, character that's been around for a long time and has a significant history in the Marvel universe. And
had a great duo series, a partner. It was it was like it was almost like a buddy comedy series with Deadpool. They had a Cable and Deadpool comic several years back. It ran for like, I think 25 issues or so, and really good stuff. Fabian Nicieza wrote that.
But I'm glad that they just simplified a lot, because the backstory with the character can make your head hurt.
Oh, they had Fred Savage mentioned that. He's like, wait, you have had Cable in this? And he's like, and Deadpool's like, Cable? He's like, oh yeah, son of Cyclops and Madeline Pryor, genetically engineered clone of Jean Grey, sent to the future, the Ascani son. He's like going through Cable's whole backstory. He's like, I do hope you've done this character's you've done justice to this rich and layered character's backstory. And Deadpool's just kind of like, yeah, we did the time travel thing.
He's from the future. Bingo. That's it. You know what? That's all you need to know for this movie. Okay. He's a super soldier from the future. He's a cyborg super soldier from bingo. Now, if we do any more movies with him, we can go into all that. But you don't need it for this movie. And I love Josh Brolin anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But he strikes exactly the right note for this movie, because he's a straight man.
Yes.
In this movie. Yeah. That's his role. He's a straight man, and he understands that. He never cracks a joke. I think he smiles briefly at the end when he saves Deadpool's life, but like that's it. But yeah, that's his role in this movie, and he plays it superbly.
But you know what the weird thing too is he's also strangely humanizing. There's this strangely humanizing quality about him. And it's not just because of, his family and everything, because that's stock thing for like some sort of like, badass super soldier, right? Their family got killed and they're going out.
Oh yeah.
So like, but still, like, just something about the way Brolin plays it, like he's a very human type of take on Cable.
Yeah, when you look at him, you could easily see that he could be like a knockoff of like the Terminator, because half of him is like a robot anyway.
Right, yeah.
But he's not. That I like the scene where he's just sitting on the side of the bed and he's just drinking a beer. And there's something about his body language that he's doing that. Like you said, it's very human.
Yeah.
So when we see, we see him do all this other badass stuff later on. And then there's later on when Deadpool is trying to convince him, listen, you got to give me time to talk to this kid. You got to give me time to talk to this kid. And then, he finally relents and says, okay, I'm going to give you 30 seconds.
I love that whole sequence with Wade's legs.
Yeah. Oh, that's disgusting.
I laugh my ass off every time I see that sequence.
Oh, that's disgusting. But okay, that brings me to a question, which I did ask on Facebook. Somebody gave me an answer, and I said, well, okay, it's just comic book logic. If his healing factor, if he can regrow legs, why doesn't it fix his face?
I think in the comic books, actually, I believe it had something to do with the procedure that had made him disfigured.
Okay.
Like that, it was some side effect of the procedure that made him disfigured. I think that's what it was in the comic books. In the movie, I think it's just kind of like the combination, because it happened right as his powers were triggered. So I think that's why it's kind of like it doesn't go back.
And see, that's something, okay, now that's something that bothers me because, okay, now I understand he's Ryan Reynolds, he's the star of the movie, and people have to recognize that it's Ryan Reynolds. But to me, he's not disfigured enough. I mean, yeah, he looks, you look at him and you say, yeah, he's got, but it's not like you go at him and say, which to me is, from what I know of the character in the comics, that's how you're supposed to go when you look at Deadpool's face.
It really kind of varies based on the artist. Like there are some artists who draw him like really complete, like, like a walking zombie type of thing. But there are other artists who actually do draw him a lot more like Ryan Reynolds in the movie. So yeah, it really depends on the artist who's doing it.
It's like Josh Brolin, who played a DC character, Jonah Hex.
Yeah.
He wasn't, all he had was that little strip of skin going down. But other than that, he was,
Yeah.
But Jonah Hex, like the whole side of his face, because he was scarred with a red hot tomahawk. He's supposed to be a lot more messed up than that, but he's not. But and like again, I understand a studio is not going to pay $20 million, for a star like Josh Brolin or Ryan Reynolds, just to have him walk around with a messed up face.
Right.
All the time. That was one of the complaints a lot of people had about the Judge Dredd movie with Sylvester Stallone. A lot of people get on Stallone about Stallone actually wanted to play the whole movie with his helmet on. He didn't want to. It was the studio that said, "Listen, we're paying you all of this money. You're going to show your face."
Yeah.
And finally, he gave in and he said, "Okay, I'll do it." But he didn't want to do that. It was just one of the myths that go around. They say, "Oh well, Stallone was an egotist. He had to show." No, he didn't, because Stallone knew the character.
Well, yeah, Stallone's actually a pretty big comic book fan.
Yes, he is. He knew the character.
Like he
wanted to play the movie with the helmet on all the time.
Well, he wanted to play Superman in 1979. Like he campaigned heavily for that role because he was a big comic book fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, Josh Brolin, and going back to him, like I just love the interactions he has with Deadpool in this, and just like just like with Zazie Beetz, him and like Ryan Reynolds is just this. He's just got this personality that he works really. I don't think I can think of any time when I've seen a movie with Ryan Reynolds and someone else that he didn't have good chemistry with.
He interacts very well with everybody. He does. He's just one of those actors that you put him on anybody and he clicks.
Yeah. I mean, well, actually, I take that back. I think Blade Trinity is probably the only time I could think of when he didn't. And there's other stuff going on with that movie.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other shit. Because he was in, what was that? Because he was in Hobbs and Shaw. Yeah, basically playing Deadpool without a mask.
Yeah.
The character was. And he was very good in that one, too. He was very good in that. And playing, with Jason Statham and...
The Rock.
Dwayne Johnson.
Dwayne Johnson, yeah.
He's just one of those people, and it seems that
same thing in the Hitman's Bodyguard, right? Him and Sam Jackson, they're
him and
interacting.
Sam Jackson, yeah, a movie I otherwise couldn't stand because it wanted to be Midnight Run so bad.
Mm-hmm.
But
it was also also Safe House that he was in with Denzel Washington.
Denzel Washington, yeah.
So yeah,
one of his rare serious roles, because that was a straight, action thriller.
Yeah, it was a more serious role, but his comedy still kind of came out. Like his personality does kind of come out in those types of roles.
Yeah, I think he can't help himself.
No, yeah, I mean, because that's just so much a part of who he is.
Yeah, yeah, which is why he knew he could play this character. He knew he could, if he did it the right way, he knew he could nail this character perfectly. And like I said, I don't know that much about the character, but from people who do know him, like you and other people I know, they say, yeah, he's got it down cold.
Oh yeah, I remember when they first announced back when the only thing people knew him from was Van Wilder and Two Guys, a Girl in the Pizza Place. Was everybody was like, you're gonna get Van Wilder to play Deadpool? That's terrible. And I'm just like, I don't know. But then after I saw him in Blade Trinity, I'm like, okay, well he can do the action, because Blade Trinity was basically his audition tape for Deadpool.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? You would think that people would have learned well, they'll never learn, because they have the casting choice for somebody, and they said, really? Him? Really? Her? Because I remember some people saying Zazie Beetz. Well, who is she? When she was announced to play Domino in this movie, and people saying, well, who is she?
Well, I remember the racist freak out over the fact that they didn't paint her face white.
Yeah, well.
And instead they reversed it and they gave her the white domino dot, which I thought was clever.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I would have liked it to be a little bit more distinctive, right? I mean, and I think you actually could have just gone with a black dot on it. It's not like she's very dark skinned, so.
Right.
But just like all the I'm just like, who gives a shit? I
mean, really, after a while, really, don't we have other things to concern ourselves about? And like I said, I didn't have any problems with it. I said, I don't know that much about the character anyway, but I enjoyed her. I enjoyed everybody in this movie, like I said, except the cab driver. The cab driver got on my nerve. But everybody else, Josh Brolin, I loved him as Cable. I love the joke that they got in where, because of course, in the comic book, he's like friggin' 8 feet tall. And there's a part where Deadpool is outlining the plan. He said, okay, if you run into this guy, Cable, watch out for him. But he's only 5'11". He's nowhere near as tall as he is in the comic.
And it's like, you look at, and it shows the X-Force guys like looking back, like, what is he talking about?
So don't worry about it. Oh my God. See, those are the parts that make me laugh when they make reference to stuff that's in the comic books. And yeah, like you said, everybody's looking, well, what is he talking about? Oh man.
But and also just the running gag where Deadpool assumes that Cable's racist.
Everybody's racist for some reason.
You shot Black Tom, you racist bastard.
He just assumes everybody's racist.
It's like Cable, and I love at the end when he's dying and he's giving this whole big monologue. He's like, Cable, promise me you'll start judging people by the content of the character and not the color. Cable's like, Jesus fuck, even when he's dying.
Even when he's dying, he's a pain in the. Now let me ask you something, because like I said, you're the expert. You know more about this. I would suppose that this orphanage is run by Mr. Sinister.
Yeah, that's the hint, because it's the Essex House. Yeah.
Okay, and I looked at the name and I said, wait a minute, that name is awful familiar.
Yeah, because in the comic books, Essex did actually run an orphanage. He ran the orphanage where Cyclops grew up.
Right, and Domino makes reference to the fact that she says, "Oh, I was raised here."
Right. And that wasn't from the comics. Obviously, that was just a way to tie her into the story.
Right, because she was saying, "Well, there's a reason why I'm here. I don't know why I'm here, but it'll come up." And then when she realizes that.
I do love their back and forth. They're like, hey, it's your cosmic reason for being.
Yeah. And then she goes in and she's kicking the ass of all the residents, and the kids are cheering her on and stuff like that. She had a good action sequence. Yeah, that was a good action sequence. I like.
Also, I love
because again, we see how her luck power is working, because half these guys are killing themselves off.
Yeah.
While they're fighting her, it's not nothing she's doing. They're killing.
And then she's like, I got to figure out a way out of here. And then the bus crashes through the wall.
Again, a visual representative of how luck power could actually work. So, yeah.
And also the just in the speaking of fight scenes, the one with Cable and Deadpool going up against all the orderlies too. That was another really good execution of obviously not luck, but just in general, that was such a great scene.
That was a bloodbath.
Yeah, I know that. Cable's like, Deadpool's like, hey, can I have one of those guns? And Cable's checking him. He's like, no.
No. I mean, Sam Peckinpah would have loved that scene.
Oh yeah, well, there's that one scene at the end, right when they finish off the last two guys, like they both shoot him at the same time, and then Deadpool's like, only best buddies execute pedophiles together.
But see, again, and this goes back to what we were talking about when we were talking about the Punisher. Mm-hmm. You know what? If you're gonna do these types of movies to these characters, then make them true to the characters.
Yeah.
But to me, there would have been no reason to have done a PG-13 or PG Deadpool, because then it wouldn't have been that character.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why that first movie was such a success, because once word got around that that this is the actual character, a lot of Deadpool fans went to see it, and a lot of people, were curious hearing about this R-rated superhero movie where you don't see a lot of R-rated superhero movies, and it just took off. Because I think that probably more than a lot of other superhero characters, Deadpool is probably one that found a lot of acceptance with mainstream audience.
Oh yeah.
Who normally would not go to a superhero movie.
Yeah, I've got there's a guy I work with who not really a comic book guy, right? Like he watches the movies every now and then, but he's never really read a comic. He loves Deadpool. Like after seeing, like he's just become a total Deadpool fanatic after seeing that movie.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot of people say that too. They said, oh, they didn't know a thing about the character, and then there was a lot, because Ryan Reynolds has a large following. A lot of people wouldn't see it simply because of Ryan Reynolds.
Well, also, I remember seeing when the first Deadpool movie came out, I saw people who I've seen before talking about how much they hate the character of Deadpool coming out of that movie and be like, "That I really like that movie."
I like this. I tell you, I like this one though better than the first one.
You know what? At first, I would have, if you had asked me back when they first came out, I would have said Deadpool is obviously the better movie. But now I've come around more to this one. I think part of it is, I think the extended cut offers a little bit more stuff. It's a little bit funnier. It's got some really nice alternate takes on it. But also it's just that quality, like rewatching this movie over and over again. Like it just, I don't know. This is one of those weird movies. You were talking about this before where you talked about Clerks, and you were saying how, it's one of those rare movies where when even you're watching it now, and even though it's like 30 years later, you still laugh at the jokes.
I still laugh, even though I know when the jokes will come. That, Blazing Saddles, Airplane, Johnny Dangerously, these are movies that I watch, and I've seen them over and over and over again. I know when the jokes are coming. I still laugh anyway.
Deadpool 2 is kind of like that for me in a kind of a way, like not quite the same. It's one of those movies that the more you watch it, I think the gags, because there's a lot going on in some of these gags. Like it's like not quite on the same level, but Arrested Development also had this kind of thing where like the first time you watch it, you're like, that's not funny. But then when you watch it again, then you start noticing all the other stuff that's going into the gags, and it starts to become funnier then. I think Deadpool 2 does that in a lot of ways too.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I've watched this movie like 3 times in like 2 weeks. And I find that every time I watch it, I'm liking it a little bit more every time I watch. Like I said, I watched it today, and I was still picking up on stuff that I had noticed in my previous 2 times seeing it. And I'm saying, oh, okay, I'm really, I'm paying more attention to, this performance or that performance or that action sequence, or I'm noticing a gag I didn't see before, or something that's in the background I didn't notice before. And then, would you believe? Okay, I watched it today for the 3rd time. I finally got the gag with the little Logan music box in the beginning. I said, "Oh yeah, that's from the movie." I finally got that. Yeah, and then when he says, "Oh yeah, well Logan, well I'm going to die in this movie too," and I said, "Oh okay, yeah, he's making okay, all right, I finally got it." Don't ask me why, because I've seen Logan. Terrific movie. But now I finally got it. So it's a movie that I think that I would probably rewatch this more than the first one.
Yeah.
Because usually if I watch the first one, I watch it, but I don't Okay, because it doesn't have enough Colossus and
Megasonic Teenage Warhead.
Right, NTW.
Yeah.
That name is Deadpool said that's a fucking long name to say. Yeah, but it doesn't have enough of them in but this one, it's got just enough of them in this movie to satisfy me.
And it also adds Cable and Domino as well, who help bring more to it. Yeah.
You got Cable, you got other characters in there. And like I said, they're not characters that we've seen. I didn't feel like these are like the overexposed X characters I've seen in other movies. I've never seen characters before.
Yeah.
So that adds to my enjoyment of the movie as well. Because of course, since they're characters I haven't seen before, I don't know what they're gonna do. They're unpredictable.
Yeah.
And all of them are unpredictable characters, which again added to my enjoyment of the movie. Because they're not your typical superheroes. It's a fun movie. It really is. Matter of fact, I would advise anybody, and I don't usually do this because I'm anal, and I always say we got to start at the first movie and everything like that. If you've never seen Deadpool 1, just go ahead and just watch this one. Because really anything that you need to know, this movie will tell you anyway.
Yeah, I didn't really think, as you were saying that, I was starting to run through it in my head, but you're absolutely right. Like, there is no real reason to watch, I mean, other than the fact that, I like Deadpool, but other than that, like, if you're just coming in cold, like, you could show this movie to someone completely cold, who's never seen Deadpool, knows nothing about the character, and they would not feel lost at any part in this movie.
Exactly. You would not feel lost. You would say, oh, okay, because you got a whole complete movie right in here. There is nothing in here that really actually depends on you having to see the first one.
Yeah.
To be honest. Unless, of course, like you said, you just want to go back and get his origin story. But I would watch this first and then go back and watch one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think that's... I would still suggest, if you're going to watch them both, I would still suggest watching Deadpool first, because I do think after watching this one, after coming around on this one so much, I think if you watch this one first and then you watch the first Deadpool, I think it might be a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah, good point. Okay. Yeah. I can see, because this one is so high energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got so many good performances and there's so many good little parts in it. Like you said, then you watch the first one and you say, it's like I always tell people when I tell them if they're going to watch, what is it? The Quentin Tarantino movie. If they're going to watch those two Grindhouse movies.
Death Proof.
I always tell them watch Death Proof first and then watch Planet Terror. I said, don't watch it the other way. Because I know some people have done it. And they say, oh man, I did. Yeah. And I said, no, you watched it in the wrong order. Watch Death Proof first and then watch Planet Terror.
Yeah.
Because Planet Terror is, it goes up here. And once you get to, Death Proof, and then there's a whole good hour before anything happens. We see the first set of girls get killed. And then you got that really long stretch where really nothing happens. And then everything is at the end. Whereas Planet Terror is just batshit insane from start to finish.
Absolutely, yeah.
This one is like batshit insane from start to finish.
Next, speaking of, I would love to see Robert Rodriguez direct a Deadpool movie.
Oh yeah. He could do this with his eyes closed.
Oh hell yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Okay. So I think that's pretty much it on Deadpool 2. Anything else you wanted to add about this?
All I have to add to this is that, folks, I came into this not as a Deadpool fan at all. I'm still not a Deadpool fan. However, I do pride myself on being objective. And looking at it objectively, this is an extremely well-made movie. It's funny. I don't think it's gut-bustingly funny. Some people think this movie is utterly hilarious. We're not talking about Airplane here, but it is funny. It's got a lot of funny bits in it. It's a unique superhero movie. Again, I've watched it 3 times in the past 2 weeks, and I still keep watching this movie, and it's growing on me more and more and more. Like I said, I could see myself in like another 6 months, putting this back on and watching again. The first one, no, but this one, I could see myself watching this over and over again. Yeah, it's that good. It really is.
I definitely recommend that you should find a way to track down the super duper cut then, because I think you'll like it even more.
I'm going to.
Yeah. But yeah, pretty much the same thing. I will say, like, for me at least, this was gut-bustingly funny. Like, I laugh my ass off every time I watch this movie.
Okay.
But I'm also more of a Deadpool fan, so I'm more predisposed liking this type of movie. So
Yeah, like I said, most of the gags that I was laughing at, some of them was Deadpool, but I found myself laughing more at other stuff that other characters were doing, you know. But listen, it's hard to argue against Ryan Reynolds. I like the guy. So, you know, it's hard for me to say, I'll be honest, it's hard for me to say anything bad against the guy because I like him, you know.
Well, also,
and I'm glad to see that he's found a character he's had so much success with.
Also, if you're an X-Men fan, like there's a lot of little X-Men Easter eggs that you don't really, and the Easter eggs in these movies, they feel more honest than the ones like in the main X-Men movies. Because the main X-Men movies just like, oh, let's just find random characters and toss them in. Here, they do feel a bit more it feels like the people actually know what they're referencing.
Exactly.
And so like when they assemble the X-Force team, all of those are characters who have been part of X-Force in the comics.
Yeah. Like Shatterstar. Where did they find a guy to look exactly like Shatterstar from the comics? I will never know. I said, oh, he looks just like the guy. Even with that weird helmet thing he got with the with the French roll and everything. Oh my God, you know, that's him.
I love that when he's at the end, he's like, I don't think anybody's gonna miss Shatterstar. He was kind of a dick.
And I like that little thing. It's a little thing I know, but when they jump out of the airplane, they actually form an X. Go down.
You know, I never noticed that until this last viewing. Then I'm like, oh wait, it's an X.
Yeah, they actually form an X. So yeah, and that's, I mean, and just the team gets wiped out one by one, and then that little brief second, and it's only about 2 seconds. If you were in the movie theater and you sneeze, you miss that Brad Pitt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they don't linger on it, which I actually liked. They don't have him going up there going, he hits the wire, and it's like real quick, you see him, and then they cut away to something else.
Yeah.
What was that? You know.
Also, I love the running gag about Cable's fanny pack.
Deadpool said, is that a fanny pack?
And it's like, I'm grabbing something from my utility pouch. It's a fanny pack, and you know it. You sick son of a bitch.
It's a fanny. Yeah, and no, he's right. It is. It's a fanny.
But I also love the scene where he's putting on the lip balm. He's like, "You remind me of my wife." And Deadpool's like, "Wait, I'm sorry." And he's like, "I said you're." He's like, "No, I heard you. I'm just I'm saying I'm apologizing for the fact that you said that while making eye contact and applying lip balm."
You know what? That is kind of creepy too. You know, he's putting lip balm while he's talking to him. Oh, wait a minute. You're worried about chapped lips at this stage of the game? Wait, why are you even carrying that? And for somebody from the future, he seems to know an awful lot about, you know, because he gets in the car, he gets in the truck after he takes it from the two guys, he just starts it up. But then they never specify how far ahead in the future he was.
Yeah, it's not quite specified like what the future is like for him, like how far ahead he is. But also the dubstep reference, right?
which I actually had to Google. After I saw this movie, I had no idea what dubstep was. I mean, I heard the term, but I had no idea what it was.
But yeah, like dubstep's for pussies.
Dubstep never dies, I guess. Yeah. So what the hell? I'll go to my computer. What the hell is dubstep?
But yeah, it's a great movie. It's a lot of fun, and you know what? It's just there's just so much. Really, this movie it works so much on the strength of the interactions with the characters because like the first movie, and I think this is probably kind of the weakness in these. Like, there's not a whole lot of plot, right? It's more about the humor in these movies, and this one that the character interactions really help sell the humor because there's a lot more characters that are working together, so it works a lot better than the first one does. I think in that way.
Yeah, and you know what? When you sit down and you watch it, you realize that there's an awful lot of story in here. There really actually is. You got the conflict with the kid, you know, Julian. You got the thing with Cable. You got Deadpool going through dealing with the death of his girlfriend. You know, his relationship with all the other characters. And there's actually a lot of story in this movie, way more than in the first one. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah,
the first one didn't have nearly as much story as this one had. It was more concentrated, more like you say, on the humor. And they relied on that.
Yeah.
And Ryan Reynolds more to sell that first movie than they did in this one. They were more confident that they said, okay, well, the whole movie doesn't have to rest on him. We have a whole bunch of other characters that we can bring in there. And, you know, even though it's got a lot of characters, it doesn't seem as crowded as some of those X-Men movies.
No, it doesn't. And they all the characters have a real purpose for being here, and
Bingo,
they and like you were saying before, like, you know, Josh Brolin, like when they said they were going to put Cable in a Deadpool movie, like, you know, I know they did the Cable and Deadpool comic book, and I'm like, I'm not quite sure how well that would work in a movie, but they managed to do it really well, and you know, Josh Brolin plays an excellent straight man.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't try to be funny at all. Like I said, the only part I can remember where he smiles is when he saved Deadpool's life at the end, when he uses the time thing and he puts the coin in there, and then, you know, and Deadpool realizes what he's done. He said, "Oh, you son of a bitch!"
Yeah, well, I love it. He says, and he's like, "You do you."
Performance. So, you know.
And he's like, "You did that for me." And he's like, "No, I did." He's like, "No." He's like, "I did. You did it for me. You did it for me."
Yeah, you did it for me. Yeah. And he's like kind of smiling. He says, "No, I didn't." And I kind of like how he says, "Well, I'm going to stick around for a while," and, you know, implying, of course, that we will see him in other later. I mean, I have no idea now. Now that
it'll be curious to see how it all works out, because originally they were going to do an X-Force spinoff with Deadpool and Cable in it. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes forward from here, like what they're going to do when they do Deadpool 3, if they're still going to follow that same train of thought, because we don't really know what the exact situation is going to be, because Kevin Feige, I think he kind of said that Deadpool will be in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they work that all out. Like, are they going to bring back everything from the first movies, or are they just kind of like going to have Deadpool being the only one who remembers stuff from the first? So it'll be really interesting to see how they go about it.
Well, see, that's what I would like to see. That, of course, Deadpool is the only one that remembers that, you know, all these ex characters were at another movie studio.
Yeah,
you know, he's the only one that remembers that, of course, because that's the concept. I mean, you know, behind the character, he's the only one that realizes he's a character. You know, he's a fictional character in a story. But that's why, because what is it? WandaVision starts tomorrow.
Yes, in fact, I'm going to go to the hospital this afternoon, and then when I come back, it'll probably be midnight over in the States. So by that point, I'll be able to probably watch the first episode. I hope it'll be dropped by then.
And I'm going to be watching both WandaVision and the Doctor Strange, the Madness of the Multiverse movie. Because my gut is, I have a very strong feeling that between those two properties, there's going to be a reshuffling of the MCU in some kind of way. I don't know. I'm not going. I haven't heard any rumors, folks. I don't know anybody from the studios. I'm just going by what my gut tells me, and my gut very rarely lies to me. But I got a strong feeling, especially when I'm hearing like the casting choices, and then the Spider-Man movie. Like, they got all the other guys who played Spider-Man. They're going to be in that movie.
Yeah.
And they've got Jamie Foxx and
Alfred Molina.
Right. So I'm thinking that somewhere in these movies, you know, it's going to be a severe reshuffling of the MCU. And that's going to explain, you know, a lot of bringing these characters over from one universe to another.
Right. And, you know, I was thinking about this last night, because we've got all that stuff happening with, like you said, Multiverse of Madness and the Spider-Verse movie. And then you also have over at DC, where they're doing the Flash movie, which I know you don't want to hear about anymore, but, you know, they're bringing in the different Batman and all that kind of stuff. And now rumored that maybe Danny DeVito will be back as Penguin. So they're really leaning into the multiverse idea. And I was thinking, you know what? Kudos to the CW, because they did this stuff first at a time when nobody thought it was possible.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, I am still in awe. But we said that ourselves when we did the episode about the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah.
You know, they did the same thing that Avengers Infinity War and Endgame did. You know, it did the same thing. You know, it just took them longer to get there, and they did it in a more roundabout way.
Yeah.
But, you know, they reshuffled. And it seems to me like, even more than Marvel, Warner Brothers and DC is really committed to the idea of doing, I mean, you know, the multiverse.
That's something that's interesting is, was it Walter Hamada, the head of Warner Brothers? I'm not sure if you saw this interview he did, but he said they're going to have, like, you know, two different Batman. or like three, like, because Michael Keaton is going to be sticking around for a while.
Mhm.
You got Robert Pattinson doing his thing as the young Batman, and that's going to be kind of like its own separate thing, right?
Right.
But then also, it looks like they are going to have like a present day Batman who, maybe they get Ben Affleck coming back, which would be amazing. I don't know if that's likely, but um, if they could get Ben Affleck to come back, that would be awesome. But they're going to have like, an older Batman who's still interacting with like Superman and Wonder Woman and the Flash and all that.
Right.
So we could see a situation where you got like, and this is really cool. I like that DC is leaning into this idea of like, look, we don't have to be limited, right? They're having faith that the audiences are sophisticated enough where they can realize, hey, look, this is Michael Keaton, he's old Batman. This is Robert Pattinson, he's young Batman. They're in different universes. I'm glad that they are finally having faith that the audiences are capable of understanding that. Because for a long time they didn't. They thought like, oh, if we have Batman on Smallville, that's going to screw with Chris Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy because it's not going to be the same guy. It's like, well, no, it's not. People can understand. People can accept the fact that they're different iterations of these characters. So,
well, okay. The reason why they can do that now is because I'm old enough to remember where once upon a time they would not have done that. They would have said, "Well, you'll just confuse the audiences."
Well, yeah, like I was saying, that was the whole thing with Smallville. Like they didn't want to have Bruce Wayne appear on Smallville, which the producers of Smallville did want to do. They had a whole storyline mapped out for that, and Warner Brothers was like, no, you can't do that because Batman's appearing in the movies.
Right. So, but now what it is that you've had a whole generation that has grown up on science fiction, and fantasy TV series and movies, which my generation didn't grow up with. That's why they said that, well, it's just going to confuse them. But you've got a generation now, you've got a couple of generations that's grown up with the idea of alternate world, thanks to Star Trek and all different kinds. They've grown up with the idea of parallel universes and alternate worlds and time travel. And so this stuff is not confusing to them. So now they can do that and say, okay, we can have 3 or 4 Batman and, nobody's going to get confused. The audience will figure it out, which to me is my thing. Just put it out there and let the audience figure it out.
Yeah. But I'm hoping now maybe we might get if Michael Keaton's gonna be doing more Batman movies, I hope we're gonna see, or just more movies, I should say. I hope this means we will get like a Batman Beyond with him as old Bruce Wayne.
They should give. If I ran Warner Brothers, I would just say to him, "What do you want, Michael? What would it take for this to happen?"
Yeah.
Because Michael Keaton now is at the perfect age.
Yes.
To play the I mean, he is that age now.
He looks the part. He looks like he stepped right out of the show.
He looks exactly like he stepped out of it. And I mean, really, I would, if I was running Warner Brothers, here's a check. Just write out what you want.
Yeah.
All you got to do is just sign that you'll do this series. And that's it. Yeah. I mean, Batman Beyond has got to happen. Live action. I don't care if they do a movie, a TV series, miniseries, whatever they want to do. As long as Michael Keaton is playing Batman.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so that means we're going to do my pick for the last movie of the month. And I figured since it's out on HBO Max, since it's only going to be on there until the end of the month, let's go ahead and do Wonder Woman 84.
Oh, yes. It's a controversial
movie right now. So it's I think it's a good time to talk about it, too.
Well, like you said, it's going to be gone in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So we might as well fire it up one more time, watch it, and then we can talk about it next week.
Okay. And I have to submit a list to you because like we did last year, folks, I asked Perry and he said it's okay with me to do so. For the month of February, we're going to be doing, again, Black superhero movies.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pick up a whole bunch of them and I'm going to submit it to them. I'm going to tell you right now, no Blade. No, really, Blade's been done to death. I like to do something that, maybe people haven't seen before. So I'm doing my research.
Oh, okay. This will be interesting.
I'm doing this the right way. I'm looking for movies that, no Catwoman. So don't look for Catwoman either. I'm trying to find movies that a little bit off the beaten track.
What about Steel? Is that going to be on there?
I won't pretend you didn't say that. No, you know what? I keep holding Steel over people's heads as a threat. If they don't do something that we want them to do, Well, we're gonna do Steel this week. Later. You should have did this. You should. Remember we was asking people for suggestions?
Oh yeah. I remember.
Nobody was doing it, and I said, well, you know what? We're gonna do Steel then.
And then everybody's like, hey, you know what? We kind of want to see you do Steel. And like,
you know what? You're always gonna have that one person. Yeah, go ahead and do Steel. Go ahead.
They're calling your bluff. Yeah.
Yeah, do Steel. I dare you. You know. No, but we had what I thought was a nice little mix of movies last year.
Yeah.
You know, A-Bar, you know, first Black Superman we did.
Yeah, and we did Meteor Man and Black Panther.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm.
Okay, cool.
I know a lot of people are gonna be mad with me. Well, how can you not do Blade? Well,
we'll get to all these eventually, right? Like there's
we'll get to all of them eventually, but it's just that Blade has, you know. Okay, I have certain issues with Blade being classified as a Marvel movie, which we've talked about and I've went on at length about. Right. So when we get around to doing Blade, I'll explain in more detail then. But anyway, that's what we're doing for February.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So come back next week. We're going to do Wonder Woman 84. After that, we'll see what's on Derrick's list and we'll go from there for Black History Month with more Black superhero movies. Until then, head on over to superherocinephiles.com. It's our website. You can donate. Give us a one-time donation if you want. You can become a regular subscriber if you want to do that. Helps us, you know, pay the bills around here. Helps us keep the lights on. Go to facebook.com. The group is Superhero Cinephiles. Join in the discussion. We post up links to news articles and other types of stuff that comes up. And Twitter and Instagram, we're on both of those at Super Cinema Pod.
Here you go.
There we go. And we will see you next time. And Happy New Year, because this is the first time we're talking since the New Year.
First time we're talking. Happy New Year to everybody out there. I know a lot of you were looking for us to turn the corner because people say, "Oh, I can't wait till 2021. It's going to be different. It's going to change." Well, didn't 2021 hit us right in the face?
Well, you know what I said? I said, you know how in horror movies, right? When you see when the monster dies, they always pop back up for one last scare.
Oh, one last scare. But folks, listen, just have faith. Be kind to each other. Be good to yourself. Watch some good movies. Read some good books. And we'll get together next week.
Yeah.
Okay. God bless.
Talk to you next time. Thanks for watching. Visit us on the web at superherocinephiles.com and remember to subscribe to watch more of our videos.